In this video, I'm going to cover some floor to reformer flows starting on the box on the floor. So we're going to go from the floor to the box, to the carriage, kneeling front, side, or kneeling back, side, and then facing front. So I have a yellow spring on, actually, yeah, a yellow spring to start. Once we transition from the box to the carriage, that's where we're going to go to a blue spring. So let's go ahead and start with short loop. We're going to get into a side kneeling plank position, and I'm going to choke both of them up and hold it at my forehead, lift myself up, and just do overhead triceps for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 more. Holding the arm up, raise and lower the leg for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bend the knee in, arm comes down, lift up, have a seat on the box, extend that leg out. Did you get that? Let's do that one more time. So we just finished our last tricep, and tricep hold, leg lower and lifts. And the last lift, you're going to bend that knee, bring it in. Lower the arm, lift up, have a seat. Then we're going to go ahead and extend the leg out. Switching hands, we're going to do overhead presses. And then presses in, underhand, or across the body. On this last one, we're going to grab it, put our hand on the farthest of the box edge. We're going to lift up, bring the foot in, lift up, pivot, put the foot in strap, place the other hand on, and hip abducted presses. I'll show you that one more time. So we've just finished our underhands. Switch hands. One hand goes on, slide that extended leg in, lift up, pivot, kneel, place the foot in strap, and right into hip abduction. Once you've done it a few times and you've demoed to your students, if you're teaching this in class, it's not that difficult. It's just learning it a couple of times, that transition there. So we're going to finish our last one, bring it in. I'm going to hold the rope with my left to slide my hand out, and then I'm going to bring myself up, and I'm going to bend over at the hips, going into triceps. Bring the left foot forward, straight arm presses. Now this is where we're going to pivot to come on, and this will need to be done on the other side. And today I'm just going to show you the transitions on this side. So once I'm done with the last one, I'm going to hold it, place my hand on the shoulder rest, lower that knee down, pivot, have a seat, and then change to left hand. And that's where we're going to change the spring tension. So I'll show you, we finished the hip abduction. We've just done our last hip abduction. Hand this strap off, pull it out, triceps, up, arm presses. Last arm press, hand goes on the bed, pivot, have a seat, switch hands, switch springs. We're now going to go to a blue. Hand on the carriage, legs bent, either up, straight, or down, pressing in to activate that Latin pec, and then single arm hug of trees. Switch hands. One hand goes on the shoulder rest and pull across the body. This can be done cross-legged sitting tall as well. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this into my hand, place it on, and pivot my feet around. I'll show you that again. So I've just finished my last hug a tree or press, whatever it is I'm going to do. Switch hands, pivot. So you can either put it on the shoulder rest or the head rest. Feet on, pivot around, and right into arm presses. I'm going to show you that again, transitioning from here. So we're on a yellow spring, but I'm just going to show you that transition. Last arm press, hold the shoulder rest, pivot around, have a seat, do your flies, do your presses, do your pulls, pass it back, pivot around, and up. So whatever you want to do, your hand position, you can pass it, whatever, right to left. I really change it up all the time. If you want to do single leg, obviously we're going to move the foot bar or do it under. If you want to do some balance here, and then up to kneeling, biceps. And here's the transition after I finish 5 biceps. I'm going to pivot again, hand on the shoulder rests, pivot around, slide, and go to a side kneeling lunge. So I'm going to show you again that transition from seated, because I know I'm moving fast and I want to make sure you can see the transitions. So I can either finish with a hug a tree, and then I've got my hand in it to pivot, or I can finish with an arm pull to extension, slide it in, and pivot around to kneeling. If I want to keep it in that, I can do some lateral arm work. Coming up, bicep, finish my 5 reps of bicep, pivot around, slide that knee, and then into archer. So there's a lot of different options you can do there. Going into tricep, you have to work within the range that your students have available or you have available, low to high. And then last transition would be hand on the shoulder rest, knee goes down, hand to spring side edge, pivot around, and then facing front. Whatever choreography you want to do with your students, it's really limitless. So when you're going from a side to carriage onto the ground, or from the ground onto the reformer, start with your springs here, doing arm, leg, pivot, foot in, have a seat, arm goes out. You don't even need springs here if you don't want to. You can do mermaid, and you can do the arm pulls, presses I showed you, pivot around, put the foot in the strap, do your hip abduction, pull it out, arm pulls, circles if you're doing light, come up, bicep curls, rows. Just remember on the last whatever you're doing, hand goes on the shoulder rest, pivot up here, and do whatever arm choreography you have there. Hand goes down, pivot, up. You can go into forward lunging. You can go into side lunging. If you want to teach your students these transitions before even giving them a strap is totally appropriate. You can have them do, as I just showed you, You can have them do leg work, stretch, more leg work, coming onto sitting, mermaid. So I've got no straps in my hands. I'm just teaching them the transition. So you see where I'm going? I can familiarize them with the entire sequence without even giving them a strap. You can continue on by going here and going here and doing splits. So I just want you to know that anytime I show you a sequence that goes from the ground to the reformer, whether you're on the reformer carriage on a box, whether you're aside, from the back, or from the front, it's a really nice way to mix in some mat work, have some dumbbells, do some floor work, but just know how to transition them. I've done some aside the carriage where I've been in my strength classes and I've done some stretching, go right into tricep push-ups, go right here into leg, come up, pivot right forward into here. So don't be afraid to play around with multiple. I just wanted to show you the strap one I do quite a lot. I enjoy that. It gets dynamic. It gets the student off the reformer. My classes love getting onto the floor because they know they're going to work twice as hard differently because it's more stable. And I'm not a fan of Bosu's, but if you have one and you want to use it, try to, instead of the box here, try to come up with some choreography using it. There's so many great ways to use it. If I were to prefer, I prefer to see the Bosu or balance items on the ground, not on the carriage. I think it's too precarious, and I think unless you're high level and you know exactly what you're doing, most students aren't going to have that pelvic stability to sit or kneel on there. So try different ways to go from the floor aside the carriage to the box onto the carriage. And I've done sometimes where I finish the box and I stand up and I do a few side lunging and then put the box on the bed. So you can transition. And I'll do some more in the future. I just wanted to show you a couple this series of 4 so you can see some options. So this is series 2. Series 1 was from the back. Series from a side. Next one is going to be starting from the front. And then I'll show you another starting at the side back instead of the side front. All right, thanks for joining me. And don't forget, leave me your comments and any questions you have on this floor to reformer flow.